Howdy folks, I'm Tenacious Tiger Lily, trepidatiously trailing terrifying tigers.
I'm Amber.
And Amber, I want to know, why is a flower trailing a terrifying tiger if it's terrifying?
Well, because it's a tiger lily and it wants to learn to emulate the tiger. But it's also kind of scared because it's a tiny little flower.
So it knows that it's not a tiger, but yet it treads dangerously anyways.
I mean, how many kids, want to emulate the big kids or something like
How
that?
many kids emulate a tiger and then chase after them? None. Zero, Amber. Let's get started before we all become tiger snacks. Oh, and folks, we have a live stream coming up on Friday. We hope to see you then. For more information, see the end of the video. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for dating my friend's therapist despite her pleading me not to? Throwaway, as I don't want to dox myself. I have a very tight-knit group of friends. We are always there for each other for all the ups and downs. I see them all as my sisters and have never done anything that would affect them negatively. A few years back, something really horrible happened to one of them, Susan, and she went into a downward spiral. After many terrible therapists, she finally found one that worked for her, and she started to slowly crawl herself out of the darkness. We were all so happy for her. Well, I moved away to a nearby city about 5 months ago. My new home is about an hour and a half ride away from where I grew up. When all the necessities were paid for, I went on an impromptu holiday to Greece, when I calculated that I had some money to spare. There, I met this amazing guy on my first day in a restaurant. We immediately clicked. This has never happened to me before. I initially planned a hiking type of solo holiday, but we spent all 11 days together. I found out that he lives in the same city that I moved to, so naturally, he changed his ticket and came back with me. I told all of my friends about it and everyone was happy for me. Even Susan. During the holiday, he did tell me that he worked in a mental health field, but we were too busy enjoying our time together to be talking about the specifics of work. When we returned, we continued dating. We still are. Long story short, turns out that he is Susan's therapist. When it finally clicked for me, she told me that I had to drop him. She said that she was happy for me for having a holiday fling, but she didn't feel comfortable that I was dating the guy that had all of her confidential info, and that he might even be breaking some HIPAA rules by dating me. I told her that neither one of us knew, and that she herself felt that he was the greatest therapist, so why couldn't she just trust that he would keep it professional? I told her that he hadn't told me anything about any of his clients, and I had never asked him about it either. We were always in the moment with each other instead of worrying about who and what happened during working hours. At our next appointment, she confronted him and asked him to dump me, or she would report him. He reassured her that he would never violate patient confidentiality, but she kept harassing him for the next few appointments. He talked to me about her harassing him to dump me, as it wasn't part of patient confidentiality. He wanted to know if I felt the same way as him as he did about me, and if we had a future together, and I said yes. After that, he recused himself from being her therapist and recommended one of his colleagues for her. Since Susan had been on a smear campaign against me, and our tight-knit group isn't so tight anymore. She didn't take him up on his recommendation, and due to being out of therapy, she has started to drink again. And one of our friends told me that she rarely bathes, and other parts of her hygiene have suffered as well. She has also skipped a lot of days of work and might lose her job. She isn't faking her downward spiral, but I can't go through with what she and our friends want me to do. They say that he is just a man and there are millions of men out there for me, so why won't I dump him for her? It took Susan this long to find a good therapist, and it took her an hour and a half to drive to him, but she did it despite the commute to get better. According to them, she might not find a good therapist closer or within that driving distance, as she has exhausted all of the nearby possibilities. They are telling me that I am risking her life for a holiday fling. Am I the jerk for being a hurdle in her recovery? Alright folks, what do you think of this situation?
Oof. I don't think OP is in the wrong here, really. She didn't know this was her friend's therapist until they were already getting pretty close,
Yeah.
and the friend put her in an untenable position. Now, I don't know how I feel about how the therapist handled this all, though. I know OP says it didn't violate doctor-patient confidentiality to tell her that, but it did.
It did. I actually agree on that.
There was one time where, I mentioned to my therapist that Brian had graduated, and she couldn't even congratulate him until, he mentioned that he had his graduation, and then, she could say that, or, you finished your dissertation or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it had to come from him. She could know that fact, but she could not say it at all until Brian said it first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly the patient confidentiality, doctor-patient confidentiality is a wall, and it really just cannot be permeated in any way, shape, or form. He shouldn't have even told her that she was harassing them to dump them. And I think that this is not a very good situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I understand the therapist being frustrated, but I don't think they handled it the best. I can understand OP's position here. They found this person who they connected to in a way that they haven't connected to before, and they are, and as they say, love makes you blind in a lot of ways, and I think that in some ways OP is wanting to choose their happiness over what might have been best for their friend too. It's hard to blame OP for that, though, right?
Well, and also, at this point in time, I don't think that the therapist can work with this
No,
person
I don't
anymore,
think so as well.
And when it got to a point of making ultimatums, that was the point where he should have just recused himself and
Yeah.
offered her a new therapist.
Yeah.
The fact that he dragged this out and brought OP on board, shows that maybe he's not as trustworthy a therapist as she believed him to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think your assessment is good there. I think that he might not be. It was a difficult situation. I understand why he would be frustrated, but he broke patient confidentiality right there. And that's not a good thing. And also, like you were saying, the whole thing is already broken, right? He's already, taken or no longer taking her as a client. It doesn't matter if OP breaks up with him or not, right? They're no longer going to be seeing each other, and that's really just the way it boils down to. So I think that no matter what, Susan's going to have to find a new therapist.
Yeah. Well, that's the unfortunate thing is he will not take her as a patient anymore.
Yeah.
And he should not take her as a patient anymore. When a patient starts making ultimatums,
Yeah.
That's the point at which, it's no longer a healthy relationship, and so unfortunately, the only choice she has is to find someone else, whether or not OP's dating him.
Exactly. So I do think that Susan might actually, if she were to take a lawsuit against this individual, she might have some stuff. I don't know if this would get his license taken away or not. I'm not sure. But I think that Susan, though, needs to find a therapist. It's her responsibility to work on her mental health. And while I understand that it's frustrating and upsetting to, lose a therapist, what happens if something else had happened to him, right? Like if he had, passed away or something like that, or moved, right? She would still have to find a new therapist. So that's sometimes what life throws at you. You won't always be able to have a therapist that works for you in the best way. So maybe it's time to start looking for a new therapist. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Butterfly Blue 0324 says, not the jerk, and don't break up with him. Nobody can dictate what you do with your life, and the fact that she doesn't trust you should tell you that she's not your friend. He didn't violate anything, but he should have recused himself when you all first found out. I don't actually know if that would have been necessary.
Well, yeah, I don't think, because if he's keeping everything confidential and doesn't take work home, it shouldn't matter. And I understand, with really, really close relationships, it could be an issue, if you're in the same household or something. But, friends, I don't feel like it's that big of an issue necessarily.
Yeah. And OP replies, which he did. He tried to ease her into a new therapist during the sessions after he found out, but went nowhere. It was only 4 sessions, and the 4th one, he had to make her leave due to harassment. The fact that OP knows any of that is disconcerting.
Right, unless the friend told her.
Yeah. And Petty Witch says, I think that if she really wanted to, your ex-friend could get your boyfriend in trouble. To be fair, it depends on where you're at, though. And OP replies, no, because he hasn't broken any laws. I tried to add an edit after typing, but it wouldn't post, saying that I've replied too much. Probably to get rid of automated replies. I should be able to add an edit as well, as I have waited about 10 minutes. Most of the information came from her, and I put two and two together. The thing about the harassment in the last session, which was an unpaid session, even though by law he could charge her for it, was a confirmation, and his workplace says there are guidelines for when a patient harasses a therapist. Patient confidentiality doesn't cover it. I will add the timeline, as a lot of people are unsure about the timeline and the events themselves.
I feel like she's backtracking in the comments because she says that essentially he consulted her and was like, well, how do you feel about all of this type of situation?
Yeah. Alright, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Asking My Girlfriend to Split the Hotel Costs After She Invited Her Friends Without Telling Me? So, I recently took my girlfriend Emily on a weekend trip to a popular beach town. I booked a nice hotel room for us to enjoy a romantic getaway. Everything was great until the second night when Emily invited her two friends, Laura and Kate, to hang out with us. She didn't tell me that they were coming, and I was a bit surprised, and I went along with it though. Things got even more awkward when they decided to crash our hotel room because they didn't want to pay for their own. I was annoyed, but I didn't want to cause a scene. The room was cramped with 4 people in it, and it definitely wasn't the romantic getaway that I had planned. Well, the next morning I told Emily that I wasn't comfortable with her friends staying for free and that I felt that they should chip in for the room. Emily got defensive and said that it was rude to ask them for money since they're her friends. I argued that it was unfair for me to cover the entire cost of the room when I only had planned for the 2 of us, and she invited them without consulting me. Emily eventually asked Laura and Kate if they could help with the cost. They were taken aback but agreed reluctantly. However, Emily was still upset with me, saying that I embarrassed her in front of her friends and that I should have just let it go. When we got back home, Emily told our mutual friends what had happened, and now some of them think that I was being unreasonable and cheap. Others think that I have a point and that Emily should have asked before inviting her friends to stay. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend to ask her friends to split the hotel cost after they crashed our romantic getaway? Alright folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. I mean, the girlfriend 100% should have talked to OP before she even suggested to her friends that they join her.
Yeah.
And then, as soon as the friends were like, oh, hey, we're crashing here, we don't want to spend money, like, they should have offered to chip into the hotel. They shouldn't have just assumed that they were going to get to stay there for free.
Yeah, I think for me it really depends a little bit on how we interpret everything, all the series of events. If after the first night they were staying for free, that probably was on OP to make the demand up front to be like, well, if you're staying here, then you need to pay.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was like multiple days, which I'm assuming that it's just the rest of the trip, like they had, a 3 or 4 day trip that they were going to stay, and that the Laura and Kate were spending the last 2 days with them. I think at that point in time, the next morning when everything was settled, OP asking for them to help contribute to the room at that point in time was perfectly fair and reasonable. So I think it really, in my mind, depends on if he's asking for retroactive pay or if he's asking for the future days that they were going to be staying there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair distinction I hadn't really thought about.
So, because I think that he really should have been upfront with the cost if they were going to stay there. But I think that the biggest person who's the jerk in this situation is Emily.
Well, yeah, like, to just unilaterally decide, okay, my friends are joining us and crashing in our room all on your dime, is not a cool way to handle things. And it makes it seem like she's using OP and not so much into him.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that. It feels like a free vacation for her, Emily, and Laura. So I don't think that it's or Kate rather. Kate and Laura. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I am saying. So it feels a little bit like in their romantic getaway was turned into a field trip for the 3 girls, or a trip for the 3 girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't blame OP for being disappointed and maybe even a little upset that his, vacation was hijacked.
Well, and all he asked was a little bit of contribution for the room. It doesn't sound like, he did, like, he could have handled the situation a lot worse than what he did, And, like, he would have been well within his right to, like, cancel the rest of the trip and just go home or something. But, he saw it out and...
Exactly. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Doug5209 says, not to jerk, but your girlfriend is not good. It's abnormal to invite friends on a couple's holiday, and even worse to expect them to be able to share your room. And OP replies, exactly. And what's worse is her getting upset and blaming me when I think it should be the other way around. And Leiko Karine says, run. This girl is pumping you for cash and trying to take her friends along for the ride. I would have said no the second those other two girls showed up. Hey, I planned this romantic getaway. What are they doing here? She made this bad situation, so any awkwardness has to fall on her. Don't protect her from the situation that she created. But I also think that you asking for money is your way of expressing discontent, and I think that you could be more direct. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she doesn't have a joke because she is unprepared.
Yeah.
So for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to juggle air. I did it, folks. I did it. I juggled, and I did it successfully.
Knock, knock.
Who is not there?
Knock, knock.
Who's not there?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Me.
Like I said, I'm not there. I'm clearly not on the other side of the door.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Me.
No, I'm not there.
Knock, knock.
Me?
Knock, knock.
I am on the other side of the door.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Me.
Me who?
I've been on vacation only 2 days and you don't remember me?
I don't know who you are. Who are you people?
I'm your wife.
And I have Earl Grey. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy terrific Tuesday, folks. I can't believe it. It's Tuesday already. And folks, we also have a live stream coming up at the end of this week. I was taken aback. I don't know if you are too. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please have it involve a getaway.
If you want to change the plans of your romantic getaway, you should consult your partner and not make unilateral decisions.
I think that works out well. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!
And if you find a secret love while you're on getaway, then make sure not to take your work home with you.
I was thinking more like you should maybe Google them and find out more about their employment, but...
See you all tomorrow. Bye.